Hello, everyone. Yeah, I guess the bad news is out of the way. I don't have a British accent. I do live in the UK. As she said, my name is Hunter Sims. I'm at the Cambridge Center for Alternative Finance out of the University of Cambridge Judge Business School. Who we are, so we are a research center at the university. We've been around for the last decade doing research and innovation in financial systems across both the market, the industry side, as well as the financial authority side, so securities commissions, central banks, everything from reg tech to soup tech and everything in between. In terms of relevance for today, we're probably best known for our Bitcoin electricity consumption index. This has become, really over the course of the last 6 years, a global standard for assessing the electricity consumption of the Bitcoin protocol. We've expanded that to the Ethereum protocol, both pre and post merge. And we've also layered on a greenhouse gas emission model a few years back to estimate the carbon dioxide equivalent output of the Bitcoin protocol. This is cited regularly in blue chip media companies, as well as research, and perhaps maybe most famously Elon Musk as a justification for why Tesla doesn't accept Bitcoin to purchase Tesla cars. We'll see, that might change in the future. So I'm really excited to talk today, actually, because our model around greenhouse gas emissions has been long due for an update. And in just 3 weeks' time, we'll be updating that model with some of our groundbreaking research that we've been doing over the course of the last year around the digital mining industry. To give you a bit of a sneak peek, I'll hit a couple of kind of core highlights today regarding that report. In terms of kind of a methodology, the scale, and the focus of what we're doing, we now have 48% of the global hash rate represented in this digital mining survey. This is up about 15% from the last time that we did something like this. We have representation from both public and private companies. So 60% of our sample size is private companies. So we have, I think, really, we're in a very privileged position, and we thank the mining companies for trusting us with their data and their input. And we have representation globally. I won't give away everything that's in the report regarding the share and focus of where the hash rate's gone, but it is more than fair to say that the US has cemented its global dominance as the really hub for global mining. I'm going to touch on kind of two core outputs that are coming out of this report. One is an emergent strategic initiative. So obviously, the race for securing high-performance computing is on. So whether it's the Stargate initiative in the States, the $500 billion investment commitment, the EU AI Act, which is a $200 billion commitment, $40 billion of which is purely focused on increasing access to compute, the UK, BRICS, and the list goes on. The question is, how and where are companies that have been traditionally focused on mining leveraging or engaging in this type of I suppose, effectively an infrastructure transition? Mining companies have two core advantages, right? One, they have significant expertise in parallel processing data centers. So there's a natural overlap in terms of the human capital and technical capital required to support high-performance computing, so AI-based computing. Second, they also have access over really the last kind of principally decade, very strong access to power. And of course, that's going to become increasingly important where the data center electricity consumption market's going to continue to grow at over 14% compounded annual growth rate, whereas the electricity production is estimated to grow year over year at 2%. So this race is very much so a race, and mining companies are well positioned to take advantage of that. However, even just 9 months ago when we conducted this survey, we saw really not very significant input from digital mining companies kind of leaning in to this opportunity around harnessing HPC to support AI compute. The reason for that's, I think, actually very straightforward. The level of CapEx investments requirements to seize this opportunity is incredibly significant relative to the CapEx for digital mining. So if you look at infrastructure as a service, so it's the sort of moderate in between compute as a service, so the full-scale offering to HPC, it's still eight times the level of CapEx requirement investment to service the market. Of course, that's a very significant cash outlay for a digital mining company that might be focused really specifically on profit margins over the course of the last several years. compute as a service is an even larger investment, right? So a 33 times CapEx investment. Now, the payback period over that is estimated to be actually much shorter than infrastructure as a service because of the high profit margins associated. But it takes both a high degree of strategic commitment and a high ability of execution through capital deployment or structured partnerships to seize that opportunity. One such example, which has been very well cited in the course of the last even 3 months, is Core Scientific, which is traditionally a digital mining company based out of Texas. In the last year, they've gone on a very strategic initiative in partnership with CoreWeave, which is an AI hyperscaler, to support HPC compute. So now Core Scientific has actually committed, I believe it's 590 megawatts of compute as part of this overall CoreWeave partnership over the course of the next 12 years. So a very significant investment into this sort of AI infrastructure component. One really fascinating, and Core Scientific's publicly traded, so there's public information. One really fascinating dynamic here is actually CoreWeave's made the commitment to front the CapEx investment for Core Scientific to basically be de-risked in terms of making that initial investment. CoreWeave then recuperates that investment over time through a revenue share over estimated 2 to 3 years time. So I think what we are seeing and what we'll continue to see is a strategic diversification in terms of the areas of focus, what companies that are focused on infrastructure and compute do between both digital mining as well as high-performance computing more broadly. The second, I think, overall finding, and forgive me, I believe one of these flywheels, the visual is wrong, the number is right, is the energy source diversification. So that we're really excited to announce some of this very significant shift that's happened in the course of the last few years. Now over half, so 52% of the power supplying the digital mining, largely Bitcoin mining industry is sourced from renewables. So hydropower, solar, to a lesser degree, wind, and nuclear. Even more interestingly, there's an increased investment from companies. So 26% of our sample size has said that they're leveraging off-grid power in terms of their overall their overall power management strategy. Now, currently, that's only 8.1% of the total power, so companies are looking at it. It's not become a big part of what they're doing in terms of the power purchase agreements, but we expect to see that continue to evolve as miners continue to be incentivized to pursue the lowest cost possible the lowest cost possible power to supply their output. So I think in terms of the overall questions to be asked in terms of digital mining, particularly for the US, given its dominance in terms of the digital mining industry, one, this continued strategic imperative. So where and how is diversification into HPC going to be good for the industry, and where and how might it be a distraction or actually reducing power and then compute, right, in terms of the hash rate? I think that's going to continue to evolve over the course of the next couple of years. Certainly, AI is a very significant level of focus and investment, publicly and privately, whereas digital mining, I think, has not had as much recognition. It'll be interesting to see if there's further case studies like Core Scientific that's moving into that space. And then there's also, I think, self-evidently a very clear investment already, and will continue to be an investment into the continued expansion of alternative energy sources to shore up the overall industry. The policy implications, I think, and particularly for the US, given its dominance, are where and how an informed and coordinated regulatory framework can support or detract from this current market condition. So I know there's ongoing discussions around tax incentives to support renewable energy, for instance. I think that's something that policymakers will continue to be very heavily focused on in the coming years. While also then thinking more broadly about grid stability, right? So that overlay of compute requirements and power requirements and the electricity consumption that's actually being produced year over year. Where and how is the US's policy framework coming around towards focus on both grid stability and position for growth? So I think these are a couple of the core findings. We'll be sure to circulate through the digital chamber the report, which will come out in a few weeks. I think that's my time for now. But if you're interested in having a further discussion, I'll be around throughout the day. Thank you.